Is this it? Are we in?
Yeah, we're in.
Oh,
So,
sweet.
so both of us, still didn't know what was going on. Uh,
Nope.
you can take
Welcome
it
to our
away.
well.
Take it, take it,
Okay.
take it.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to this perfectly structured, perfectly pre-planned, totally professional podcast.
Exactly.
Uh,
It's on the
welcome.
internet. It must be true.
Oh yeah, and it must have been like just meticulously researched and
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Also, we have a name. This is the Say Report Junior. Oh God.
Hey!
um, Welcome to the Say Report Junior, the newest podcast in the Say Report family of products. Family being the major connection here,
It's
as
the
I,
motif, as
Zach
I like to
Zarowik,
call it.
yeah, Zach Zarowik, the younger sibling to Siegen Zarowik, and my host companion.
Oh, hi. I am Dale Decker. Assuming you know my last name. I am Dale Decker. I am the younger sibling, the younger sister of Devin Decker. And if you listen to the Say Report, um, that's who our siblings are, I guess. This is really
Yeah.
bad. This is really
Oh
bad
yeah,
opening.
I know.
Hey, you
We
know
we
what?
really should have
We're,
planned this
just
better.
just push through. Just push through. It's gonna
All
be
right.
fine. It's gonna be
So,
good.
so if any of you, so again, we're assuming that a lot of our at least early subscribers are going to be listeners to the original Say Report with Siegen and Devin. If so, you probably heard our very special pilot episode that came out last or 2 weeks
Two
ago.
weeks
No,
ago.
last week.
No,
Some
it was like 2 or 3 weeks
recently.
ago. It was recently, yeah.
Yeah, where we talked about the Orville and got to know each other.
Yeah.
The biggest, what you're going to notice, the biggest differences here is that while Siegen and Devin have been friends for 12 years now, I believe is the
I
number,
believe so, yeah.
Dale and I have known each other for about 2 months, where we started.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started messaging on Twitter while we kind of put this together, and then our first real conversation was about 5 minutes before that last episode
Yeah,
started.
it was great.
So,
It was
uh,
really great.
yeah,
So we like don't know each other at all. I mean, we know basic things about each other, like video games that we enjoy, and you know, um,
couple of TV
couple
shows,
of
but
TV shows. Yeah, yeah.
so we're basically just inviting the entire internet to come with us on this journey of getting to know each other,
Exactly. Yeah,
which,
cause
yeah,
I don't even know. I mean, we had to have met when we were younger, and like don't remember it or something. Like
no,
I.
like you had mentioned in the pilot that there was probably a movie or something, or maybe even
Oh
Devin
yeah,
mentioned it. There was like a movie or something I think we
Devin
went to go
mentioned it.
see,
Yeah.
and so I have this like vague memory of you sitting next to him. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah. See, was it Stardust? I have a feeling it was Stardust.
It could have
Cause
been.
like that's the only movie I remember going to see with Siegen involved.
I'm just trying to remember. Like it's whatever it was. It was probably something I wiped from my
It,
memory.
see,
Could be Stardust.
see, opposite for me. The people I was with was wiped from my memory, and I was so enamored with that film.
The
Still
only thing
am. I love that
all I
movie.
remember from that all I remember from that movie is Robert De Niro like oh yeah, everybody thinks that Shakespeare is just like, oh yeah, shake a spear at them. They don't realize that it's that I'm a flouncy flamboyant thespian.
Yeah, no. Oh, Stardust. I love Stardust. Yep. Good.
I don't right that's literally the only thing I remember from that. I love Neil Gaiman. I cannot
I
remember
don't.
anything about Stardust.
Well, the thing is like Stardust that came out. I don't even know when. So I was probably like 15, maybe not even 15. Oh God, I don't even know how old I
Oh,
was.
I was gonna say, you just got hit with an age, like that age realization, didn't you?
Yeah.
I, that's been
No.
happening this year. I turned 29 this year, and every now and then I stop and go, holy crap, stuff was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get that at 23, but it's less. It somehow is less like I shouldn't be feeling it, but I am, and I think I blame social media because
Hmm.
those stupid videos keep coming out where it's like Fairly Odd Parents came out 20 years ago today.
Oh,
Whoa, that's not true at all. That math isn't correct at all. But
no,
it's
but we are
like
coming up on 20 years of SpongeBob, which
we
is
are,
really throwing
yeah.
stuff. Ugh.
Um, but like it's like I totally blame social media for making me feel like I'm older than I am because I'm only
Yeah,
23.
no, I mean, and that's not, I mean, that's not surprising because, like, I exist on the internet. I'm basically a voice on this podcast now and a Twitter account. That's all I am. And so, like, coming up on 29, I'm following all of these people that are like, I'm 24 and I'm doing my dream job, and I'm 26 and I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I'm like the weirdest thing is that people are calling each other like mom and dad when it's just like, oh, you're
Yeah.
3 years older than me. Like
Yeah.
that's a new thing that we're all doing on Twitter now, and it makes me feel very icky. I
Yeah.
don't like that.
Oh God. Yeah. No. It's weird. Social
Yeah,
media in general is weird. I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not good at it. And
That's actually that's a good thing. You should not be good at it. I think
I,
I'm good at it, and I think that's why like most of my day is spent just like angrily replying to people. Although about 5 minutes before this podcast started, Devin Sawa liked to reply to one of his tweets that I did, and it made my whole day. So
well, there you go. I mean, I've had conversations. The coolest parts of social media for me are like those 5 second moments on Twitter. It's all been Twitter, and I'm not on Twitter. Like, I tweet maybe like twice a year. Sometimes I'll have a roll where I'll be on a roll where I'll tweet like 3 or 4 times a day in the day, and that's it for my year. But I have had two conversations on Twitter with one of them was Rick Glassman, who was in Undateable. I don't know if you watched that show.
I did not, but
It was on
I talk to a lot of random people that other people don't know, so that's
yeah,
okay.
so he's a comedian, but he liked a bunch of my tweets because I was tweeting about the show, so I was like, yeah, okay, well that checks out. And then John John Hamburg, who's the director of I Love You Man, which is one of my favorite
All right.
movies, one of my favorite comedies of all time. I can quote it verbatim pretty much. Um, I tweeted because I had just seen Why Him, which again, great movie, and I had tweeted about the bloopers of I Love You Man, and I made, because I've watched those more times than I've watched the movie probably, and I tweeted about that, and I did a hashtag that was specific, like way too specific to the bloopers of I Love You
Where the
Man.
where the joke is, look at this hashtag that's way too specific.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. But so, and he tweeted back. He was like, "Oh, looks like someone's been watching the extras of I Love You Man." I was like, "Oh my god!"
That's
I'm like,
beautiful.
"Thank you."
Oh, that's
Um,
so
yeah,
good.
it was great. It was fantastic. And then I tweeted something back at him. He said something back, and that was it. So it was just two things, but it just felt really cool. And
Yeah,
like
it's this
that's
weird
yeah,
it's this weird like audience participation feeling you get from Twitter, and that's I think probably
yeah,
why I can't stop. I also exist, so I write about games now. I've been playing games, and really it's the last like I've been playing games my whole life, but it's the last like 2 years that I really got like into all of it, like watching E3, tweeting about E3
yep,
in June, whatever weekend that is. That will be every tweet that I put out for like 3 days straight.
yep,
And so
yep.
like I get really into industry. I follow a lot of writers. I follow a lot of game makers. I follow other podcasters that talk about it.
Okay.
And there was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was an episode of a podcast I listened to. Oh, this is something I did on the pilot. I'm probably going to mention other podcasts in like every episode we do because all I do is play video games and listen to podcasts while I do it. There's a podcast called Bad End. It's a bunch of different writers, Rolling Stone, US Gamer, all that,
Oh,
and they
sweet.
were
Okay.
talking about the loot box controversy toward the end of like 2017, how that really got really bad.
Yep.
And it was kind of tongue in cheek and also kind of dismissive because as game writers, they deal with it day in and day out, and they're kind of sick of it. And so their whole episode was kind of dismissive of the whole problem. So I go on Twitter, and of course, I had to include like their Twitter name in it because I'm a dick sometimes. I was like, well, usually I like the fact that they're kind of pretentious and they're kind of jerks, but this was probably one step over the line, and I'm really mad at this podcast now. And like within 10 minutes, two of their hosts were tweeting back at me,
Oh my god.
and it was
Yeah.
like for the next like 2 or 3 hours, I was having a conversation with them about it,
Mhm.
and it was great because then the next episode they actually mentioned the whole thing and like made a whole like talking point out of it, and I
Oh,
felt
really?
so yeah, and I was like, oh my god, I've never had a 20-minute segment in a podcast before. This is great.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty great. Um,
and then it makes up for the fact that like every other day I'm having a freaking like heart attack and an aneurysm from whoever I'm fighting with. It's like I got one
yeah.
20-minute segment. I'm good. Don't worry about it.
That's awesome. Well, like, yeah, that reminds me, that Undateable show, I was, that was the most I've probably ever tweeted, was because they started doing live shows, um, and it became a huge gimmick.
That's okay. That's why I remember the name now because Ron
Yeah.
Funches. I follow
Yes,
Ron Funches on
exactly.
Twitter, and he talked about okay.
So, it, it, the live shows kind of, not, I mean, it killed the show. Like, it definitely did. It was still fun, but the live shows were not as good. But the most fun was to tweet during them, because that's when, I mean, they're on their phones between takes, and even sometimes during the show taping, like, their characters sitting at the booth on Twitter typing, so that was really cool to be in that world. And I tweeted something, I don't even remember what I tweeted, but I said something, and this random guy, like, answered back, and we started getting in a fight. Oh,
Oh, yep, that's how it works.
I think I misused the word meta, but I didn't. Like,
I mean,
he understood it wrong.
talk about a word that is overused as well. So it's got like 8 different
Exactly.
things right now. Yeah.
But it was either that, or I was making fun of meta or something, and this guy just, like, had no comebacks. Like, it was almost sad to win. Like,
That's always the thing.
I was like, dude, you're definitely on Twitter more than I am, and I won. Like, this is sad. You should have
That
more skills than I do.
Yeah, and that's like another thing that like gives you again, it's that audience participation thing, and then it's that like, oh, I won because you stopped talking to me
Yeah,
thing is
yeah,
like
yeah.
endorphin hit you
Oh
get.
my
When
god.
really I stop talking to people when they aggravate me, and it never translates into my head that it's like, oh, that person just got sick of me, so they've stopped responding. It's no, I won because I got the last word. Woo! Look at
Exactly.
me.
Oh man. All right. Well, so so we're 12 minutes in, and
That's
this is
so everybody. That's the
basically
show. That's
this is basically what it is. Strap in, folks, because I mean,
uh,
it's just gonna be us bullshitting. That's it.
yeah, pretty
That's
much.
it.
So have you been playing anything or watching anything? I mean, aside from the Oscars, have you seen or watched anything? I know you were out of power for a couple
Oh
of
yeah,
days.
that was great. We were out of power for 22, no, 42 hours. I don't even remember how many hours. Yeah, we lost it on Friday at like 2 o'clock, and then we got it back Sunday around maybe 10.
Oh
Maybe, I don't
Jesus,
even
two
know.
nights? You had to go
Yeah,
through 2 nights without power? Ugh.
yeah, yeah. It was cold. Um, but I didn't hate it. Like, the worst part was the coldness, but if you have blankets, you're instantly warm, you know. But I didn't hate it because when I was a kid, like, we would lose power and it wouldn't be for long, but it was just like fun because it was like, oh, now I can, like, actually just relax,
It's like
like
a whole different
like
world. It's like the
exactly,
world completely changes when all of a sudden you don't have access
exactly.
to the stuff that just
And it's great because it's
yeah.
like, so you're not trying to be on your phone as much, because in case you need your phone, you need, you need to call someone, or you need to check the internet in case, like, there's updates or something. So I literally, like, it was the first time, I think, in a while, where I literally just got to lay down on the couch and not think of anything. And it was great. Didn't think of work, didn't think of anything. It was awesome. But yeah, so what have I been watching? Well, I can say what I've been playing. I started Pokemon Gold.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Not on, like, original hardware or anything, just on my computer on an emulator. Um, but yeah, I had never played it before. The first Pokemon game I ever played in my life was Pokemon X. Yes.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
you
Oh
got
yeah.
that far?
Yep. So
Oh man, I got blue. I got blue like right at the
yeah.
like way at the beginning, and that
So
suckered me in.
when I was when I was growing up, I remember, like, I don't even remember Devin really playing. Like, I know he did because he tells me about his Pokemon times when he played. Like, the reason why I'm playing Gold is because he was like, I would give anything to play Gold for the first time again. Like,
Oh, definitely.
he has gone on record saying it's his favorite Pokemon game. But
Well, that's
so
like I got Blue when I was a kid, and then every now and then I've dipped into emulators of
yeah,
games, but it really wasn't until Sun and Moon came out
mm-hmm,
that I bought a DS to buy Pokemon
yeah,
Sun, and it was like the first time because it had been like 20 years since I'd
yeah.
started.
I got you.
So,
Yeah. So no. So it's funny because when I was a kid, I remember some parts of the Pokemon TV show. Like I remember the rap, I remember Ash, all them. Like I remember parts of it. But I was really more into Digimon.
oh,
And I, as a kid, I was like, Digimon is the only thing, like, is the only little monster show out there. Nothing can beat it. Screw Pokemon. Pokemon is just
oh
Pokemon,
no.
and like this was like my childhood brain was like Pokemon is an evil, like it has taken the sun away from Digimon, and Digimon is the only thing
Not
in
that
this
not that
world that
Digimon came
matters.
later and was clearly a cash grab
Oh
on
yeah,
Pokemon.
no,
It's that Pokemon took Digimon away from people.
I had no concept of time. I had no concept of what the development history was. I just knew that Agumon was the original, and he was the adorable one, not freaking Pikachu.
Oh man.
So that's what I grew up with, and I don't. It's funny because as much as I love Digimon, I don't think I ever saw the full series, like beginning to end. I don't even think I saw the movie, but I just remember seeing clips of it and like bits and pieces of it, and I just like I grabbed onto it. It was weird, like yeah, it was very weird. Um, but then when I got to college, it was like maybe when did X come out? That was 2013
Oh,
or
some,
14.
something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 2014. But everyone on campus, because it was like the first new Pokemon in a while. So everyone on the campus started playing it, including my roommate, who I lived in a co-ed dorm with one of my best friends, and he started playing it. So I was like, "What the hell? Like, screw Pokemon," because I was still in that mental state of Digimon is the only thing in this world that matters.
And of course, like when you're in college, all of that gets ramped up.
Exactly,
Like part of
exactly.
the reason that like I'm in like it like the last 2 or 3 years is when I'm finally getting into the stuff I really like is because 5 years ago when I was in college, I was at full form of I'm not going to watch this because like I
This
was
is yeah.
hipster before hipster became like the big word where I was like I'm not watching that because it's mainstream. I'm watching this because
Yep.
it's super mainstream and
Yep.
everybody loves it.
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
Totally hear that. Yeah. So my roommate was like, "Oh, you're ridiculous. Like Pokemon. Look at all these people who are playing Pokemon. There are no Digimon games. There is no Digimon does not exist anymore. Pretty much." And I'm like, "You're lying to me." But anyway, so I started getting jealous because people would be around campus playing each other on the DS, and like they'd be sitting at lunch tables and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, I'm missing something. So I think Devin, I started talking to Devin. I'm like, I kind of want to try Pokemon. Like I want to see what it's like to play Pokemon.
it's sad because it's hard drugs of just like you're
Yeah,
just going through, you're catching a thing, you're gonna make it fight
exactly.
other things, and then you're gonna repeat that for 40 hours, and then do that over
Exactly.
7 games.
Yep, yep. Um, and I will say that I had, even though I was very Digimon oriented, I still had favorite Pokemon because there were. I mean, Devin had a an electronic Pokedex in the house.
Oh, I
He
remember
had
that.
yep. We still have it and it still works. I still don't know how to work it, but it still turns on. But we had like a book with all the Pokemon in it, and like had like a little small collective of favorite Pokemon. Um, but then I got a 2DS, I believe for Christmas. I could be switching up my timeline, but I got a 2DS with X already installed on it for either my birthday or Christmas. It was a gift, and I was like, sweet, I can finally play, and I fell in love. Like I fell head over heels for Pokemon, and I was like, okay, I get it now. I understand why it has this following. Because, yeah, in a sense, like, there's probably some bad tones to it if you want to
Oh
be a
yeah,
cynical person.
yeah,
But
you got the dog fighting
yeah,
aspect, and you've
exactly.
got the fact that a lot of stuff that comes out of Japan is not like the most culturally sensitive.
Exactly.
But
Um, but I didn't realize how much like caring was in the game, like how much caring for your Pokemon actually affected how you did in the game,
right, and
kind
that
of.
that actually, so you jumped in at a great time with X because that was something that was not in a lot of the older
Exactly.
games,
Yeah.
like red, blue and red,
Mhm.
blue and red, blue and green when they came out in Japan.
Yeah.
I've never figured that out, by the way. I'm like relatively certain that they went with blue and red in America because they just assumed that red, white, and blue would sell better than anything with green for some
Probably.
dumb
I
reason.
mean, why not?
But
America.
yeah,
But
yeah, uh,
yeah, because it has the Poke. It has like there are people on Twitch who do Pokemon Nuzlocke, which I've started getting into, and they call them the refresh hearts. I don't know if that's really what they're called. That could just be a Nuzlocke term, or it's actually what it's called. But that's when those started becoming a thing, I believe. Right? I could be wrong.
refresh. I actually don't even know what that item is.
It might have
I know that
actually came in with Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby. I could be
it's also
wrong.
at some point, especially in the DS era, they started adding in those like here's little mini games where you get
Yeah,
to like
because you get
pet
to
and love your
feed
thing,
them. Yeah, I think
and
it's
then
actually in
they're French.
Sapphire. I think
Yeah,
it's
and they
in. Yeah, I think it's in Alpha Sapphire. So I could be wrong. But anyways, I just didn't realize, and also the experience share.
yes,
It was a
that was a
huge
huge.
thing, and like I didn't even realize that didn't exist in the earlier
Oh,
games.
oh my God!
So I
Nothing
was
is worse than
like,
like I've caught 100 of these things, and I have to swap them out to
yep,
keep them all at the same level, or
yep,
just ignore them.
yeah,
And when
yeah.
you're someone like me, where like I hate the idea of like I've got a group of people that are a group of fighters, and I can't abide any of them being more than 5 levels apart. That's why like I don't think I ever finished Sun because I played 200 hours of that game and I kept swapping through everybody to make sure they all stayed at the same
Oh,
level.
really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh God. Oh, it's
That's
so bad.
that's end. If I do that, that's end game for me. Like that's just to keep Pokemon alive until the next one comes out. Like I will go through the PC and be like, "Oh, let's evolve this one. Oh, let's get this one up." You know. But
Yeah, and if I were smart, it would be end game for me. But for some reason, I
you
get
just
into
do it
that
to
stuff
it.
before I finish the main game, and then I burn myself out. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, but so I mean, you said you didn't finish Sun because you burned yourself out. I freaking and a lot of people were giving it flack, but I loved Pokemon Moon, and I bought Ultra Sun because I wanted to do the flip flop, and it's the same game, but like there are
Oh
those
yeah.
little additives to it that are just freaking that they're just so good. They're so good. It's so much fun, and I'm okay that there aren't gyms because it
Oh
explains
yeah.
why there
No,
aren't gyms.
and that was the
Like,
best thing. Going from like, oh, the last I played Blue, I think I bought Emerald Green on Game Boy Advance and again never finished it,
yeah,
but played through a bunch. And then I didn't buy another Pokemon game until Sun. So it was like as far as I'm concerned, like there's been three major changes in that
yeah,
whole series where everybody else is like, oh, they're still kind of like gyms. They're just making you do it this way. I'm like, I
yeah,
don't care.
exactly.
I don't care that the mechanic is the same exact thing. Give me a story that changes it. That's all I
That's
need.
all I need.
I'm an
Yeah,
easy
exactly.
I'm an easy
I
audience.
also I make Pokemon really easy for myself because, as I call it, I make my Pokemon fall in love with me. And I know that's a weird sentence that I just said, but it's what I do. Like as
You
soon
say
as
that, but that's a literal mechanic in
it
Sun and
is,
Moon. So
because the amount of hearts that you have depends on whether or not the Pokemon's going to avoid moves or if it's going to snap itself out of conditions and stuff. So it's like, why wouldn't I? The whole point of that world is the bonds that you create. So yeah, I'm gonna test that, and I'm gonna push that to its very limit.
And again, all of that is just icing on a cake that you really don't want to think about the ingredients. It's like, yes, you're making these things
Exactly.
fall in love with you because you're forcing them into fights. Like
Yep.
you're forcing them
Yep.
to beat each other until one of them passes
Yeah.
out.
Which is
But make
so
sure that they really love you, so it's
exactly.
okay.
Which is so weird because like I hated Monster Hunter Worlds, and I think I talked about this on the backdoor pilot to the Say Report Jr.
Right.
But I played 3 hours of Monster Hunter World, and I even before that I tried the demo of Monster Hunter Stories, and they talk about how you're gonna forge bonds with these monsters and blah blah blah, and then in Stories, this is in the demo of Stories. Here's this poor defenseless monster just grazing. Go fucking kill it.
That's actually so, and that's the
Like
thing that I saw in the Monster Hunter
what?
World reviews and stuff. So maybe the disconnect is that because Pokemon has largely always been a like 2D, like kind of hands-off
Yeah.
thing, like it's nowhere near as graphically realistic as
Mm.
Monster Hunter World will ever be.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's probably why that disconnect works because a lot of the stuff that I saw about Monster Hunter World is as you're starting to fight these things, they'll start to like limp away and run from you and like hide
Yeah.
from you. And all of a sudden it's like you go from, oh, I'm killing this massive thing that can kill me back to now I'm just almost literally beating a dead horse until it's
Exactly. Exactly.
like
And it just made me feel super uncomfortable. And I'm like, I understand that I play Pokemon, and I understand that like I play Horizon Zero Dawn or something like that. But those it just feels different than how Monster Hunter presents it. And like, yeah, that those games are beautiful. Monster Hunter Worlds and the little demo of Stories that I played, they're beautiful games. I will not deny that. But it's just the way it presents itself is just so uncomfortable to me.
yeah,
And
and
it's
and
like,
that's really like the whole conversation coming up of like how far do we actually need graphics in video games to go? Because
exactly.
at some point this like stretch for realism really starts to wash out any sort of style
Yep.
in the game,
Yeah.
and then it presents things like this where it's like, oh, the uncanny valley's gotten so big that now I feel empathy for this giant dragon that I'm chopping to bits, and we
Exactly.
might want to take a few steps back.
Yep. Yep. It's crazy. But yeah, so I've been playing. I've been trying to finish Ultimate, not Ultimate, Ultra Sun, and I've been playing Pokemon Gold. I've been playing Gold. Oh, and if you listen to the Backdoor Pilot, which I'm gonna keep calling it that, on that pilot, that day I was playing Link to the Past,
Right.
because Devin bought it for me for Christmas on my DS. On that day, I had just gotten to Ganon. The next day, I beat the game, so I was very happy.
Yes, there we go.
I
I
and
was like, I was like nervous to ask you because I
yeah,
didn't want to put you on blast if you
no,
hadn't done it.
I
But
was
I was
so
like,
happy. I beat it. I beat it. Did I beat it? Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was the next day, and it was. I was so happy. I'm so happy. I understood it.
nice.
I understood it. It was great. and I
Oh,
like
wonderful.
and I like that I'm getting to play these like games that maybe I should have played as a kid as an adult, because
Ah,
like
it's fun.
it just feels, I don't know, it feels better cuz like I can remember the feeling, whereas like if I played Legend of Zelda Link to the Past when I was a kid, I probably wouldn't have remembered how it felt when I finally beat Ganon. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then
Yeah.
if you beat it again, one of the reasons why I haven't really played the game in years is that I played it as a kid. I beat it as a kid. I played it again and beat it again in like high school or college or something. I don't need to go back to that because I know it's not going to feel the same.
Yep,
I'm not because
exactly.
that's why I don't rewatch a lot of movies. There's like a handful that I do, and I don't like buy a bunch of movies that I just saw in theaters because I already watched them. I have this really like I don't want to replay a lot of stuff or rewatch a lot of stuff because the
You
feeling that I
really
had when I
get that.
watched it, the memory, all of that, that's enough for me.
Yep. Okay, I feel that.
So
Yeah, I got that.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So, what have you been doing or watching or playing in the
I mean,
past,
I've been
weeks?
cycling through a lot of games because I've just been between like work and just general exhaustion from work. I
Yep.
There's not a lot that I've gotten hooked into. A few new things have come out that I've been waiting for. This really cool narrative game called Where the Water Tastes Like Wine came out on PC, and a lot of it was written by a lot of the game writers and stuff that I follow, and
Oh,
some
sweet.
other
Okay.
writers. And also, Sting is one of the voices in it for some random
That's
reason.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So so where the water tastes like wine is like this like Dust Bowl era. I shouldn't even say Dust Bowl. It's after World War I.
Okay.
So was the Dust Bowl also Great Depression? I never really put those two together.
Yes.
Depression era.
Yes. It
Depression
was. It
era.
was in.
Because
It
it's
was the Great
definitely after
Depression.
World War I.
Yeah.
So I've read Grapes of Wrath. I should know this.
I only know because when I was in high school, I was like scary too into the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. I was too into that stuff.
For some reason, it's because there's two names to that. Like in my head, I equate them as two completely different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, oh, the Great Depression was this, and the Dust Bowl was this, and I never think about the fact that they were literally the
I mean,
same thing because of the same thing.
hey, we could be wrong, but who's to say? We're
We're
the podcasters.
exactly, and I'm not googling right now. So the whole point to this game is about like stories and folklore going across the country.
Very
So
cool.
you're playing this guy that or this like drifter that makes a deal with this like wolf anthropomorphized wolf man in a poker game, and played by Sting. And he basically says, "Here's the deal. You lose to him in poker." And he's like, "Here's the deal now. You owe me folklore, basically, as your debt. And also, I'm gonna just take all of your skin, so your character's a skeleton now walking around,
Oh
because
shit.
this game is just weird like that." So as you kind of traverse this like weird overworld that's the map of America, it's really nicely painted and like it's very much like Oh Brother Where Art Thou like uh, aesthetic, which is really nice.
Okay.
And so you're just walking across the country. That's all it is. You're walking, you're running into people, you're learning their stories, you're running into other people, and you're telling those stories, and then you're learning more as those stories change as you go across the country.
Huh.
And so it's like you're collecting the story, and then you might run into somebody who says, "Hey, I heard this story from you." Like, what's the first one? It's one of the really famous ones I saw. I got into like Boston or New York or
Yep.
something, and I see this woman sitting on a bench, and she's got a yellow scarf around her neck. And I went
Okay.
and I talked to her and had a little bit of a conversation with her. And then as she was leaving to get up, the scarf shifted a little bit, and there's a scar across her neck.
Okay.
And so then I went to 2 or 3 states away, and I walked into like a church or something, and someone's like, "Hey, did I ever tell?" First I went to a campground and told that story to someone. So like I stopped at a campground. There's like a handful of characters that you meet camping on the side of the road, and you
Yeah.
tell them stories to get through the night, and then they go and tell those stories to other people.
That's super cool.
So I run into this other person, and they go, "Hey, this girl I ran into that was going across the country told me this story about this woman who had a scarf around her neck to keep her head tied to her body because she
Oh.
had scarf." Exactly.
Oh, that's super.
And
Wow.
then the game goes, "Hey, that story just grew, and even though you know it's not true, you're going to
Yeah.
start telling it this way now because it's way more exciting." And so then I meet another character at a campfire,
That's
and then
super cool.
as you go through the night sitting at these campfires with them, they say things like, I want to know a funny story, or I
Yeah.
want to know a scary story, or I want to know, tell me a story about God or something
Yeah.
like. And so all of your stories are categorized, and pretty much the game mechanic is you have to figure out what story they want to hear as you go and collect it as you go across the country.
That's
Then at some point, I
super
assume
cool.
the end game is that I then meet the wolf again. I actually died.
Did you?
You
How
have
did?
a sleep meter, a hunger
Oh,
meter,
okay.
health meter. And so I
Okay.
was one of your options for getting around is to jump a train car.
Yeah.
But if you get caught, they'll beat you half to death
Oh.
basically.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
So
fun.
because that's what would happen. So
That's awesome.
that did happen. I jumped a
Well, not.
train car.
Yeah.
I jumped a train car. I got to the end of the line, and then they're like, "Oh, by the way, the workers found you and beat you half to death." It's like, "Oh, great. I wonder what happens if I actually die." And sure enough, I go and walk into a situation where I got like robbed in the middle of the
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, and by the way, they also stabbed you as they left."
Oh
and dead.
And jeez,
And
that's
so
super
I wake
cool.
up and I
That's like
wake up.
crazy.
Yeah, and then I wake up and I'm talking to the wolf again. And he's like, "Yeah, it happens. You know,
That's
you're doing a
super
dangerous
cool.
thing, just drifting across the country. So you're back kind of where you started, but you still have all of the stories you collected. And it's like, go on, go back out. You still have a
Get
debt
more
to pay. So
stories, yeah.
yeah, I'm not letting you die until you pay back your debt. So go."
That's super cool. Like,
it,
so, that's like the kind of game that I've always wanted but didn't know I wanted. Um,
right, and
because yeah,
I,
that's
unfortunately, it doesn't move as quickly as I wish it did. Like walking across takes a little while, and like
yeah,
it's not a perfect game or anything, but I love like a mechanically weird game like that
yeah.
because it is like that. Like there's nothing else to it, and then each of these characters that you meet into the campfires were written by different people, so
Okay.
they all have very
Oh,
different
that's
stories
so
to tell
freaking cool.
at different points of view, and it actually says when you meet them like who wrote.
Hello? Oh no.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Hey,
I,
yeah.
I disconnected for a second. There we go.
Hey. Well, there we go. That's that's the
Can't,
first. Hey, hey.
a first technical issue.
It's all good.
That, so we're good. Um,
We didn't freak out too much, huh?
luckily, well, thank God it was an easy fix. It's my
Yeah, right?
the like plug on my headphones is
Oh, I got you.
like has a separator in it, and I stepped on that as I was pacing.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah. Um, so yeah, so it's just really interesting to like meet all these different characters written by different people, and like the idea that it's not just like one writer doing it, which
That's
obviously
super cool.
most games are like that.
Yeah.
Like any Bethesda game or where like Fallout or
Yep.
Skyrim, all of those books are written by different people and those characters written differently. So
That's really cool. Yeah, so is it like I mean it's just linear, right? Or is it like a three is it you said it's
it's
2D or is it
no, so it's like 2D when you're sitting down and talking to people in a lot of dialogue boxes,
Yep.
but the actual overworld of the U.S. is completely open. You can you start in
Oh, cool. Okay.
Maine. You start in Maine, and you can pretty much walk anywhere. You have a map of the U.S. It shows you like which characters are sitting at which campfires, and
Yep.
it's entirely up to you where you start walking from there. So
Yeah.
like I started going down the East Coast, um, and then I'm like, okay, well I'm gonna hit Florida, and then I'll just start heading west
Up
through the whole
again. Yeah,
South.
exactly.
But you can also just start in Maine and go, I'm gonna go all through the North and the Midwest to the West Coast and then come back the other way.
Yeah.
It's completely up to you.
That's really cool. See, for some reason I thought it was like a obviously not a point and click adventure, but some like a Monkey Island-esque movement.
Right, and I think
That's
and
what I
it
thought as you were
it
explaining
definitely
it.
plays. Yeah, and it definitely plays on that. It plays on like a visual
Yeah, that's
novel
super
kind of
cool.
idea.
That's
Yeah,
super cool. That yeah.
yeah. So that's a new one I play, and then um, like a lot of, and then I've been falling back on a lot of just the games that I play when I'm like bored and I don't really want to think and just kind of relax.
Yeah.
Which like I have two games for that, and they're completely different. One of them is Stardew Valley, which is
Oh.
available on Switch and is like
Yep.
a Harvest Moon spiritual successor.
Yep.
And the other one is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which
Yeah.
is just
Okay. So
I'm going to drop onto an island and kill a bunch of people.
So I've wanted to try and get into player whatever it's called. I can't even
the
remember
worst, the worst, the worst name in video games. Battlegrounds is fine. I know.
Battlegrounds. Yeah, right. So I didn't know what it was.
Okay, so
And
I mean, it's
then
basically battle royale.
yeah,
Like,
that's well. So I heard it, and I think for the first time when I first heard it, no, when I first started on Twitch, right? So you have, I didn't understand Twitch, like maybe a few years ago. I didn't understand like
the
that.
appeal of it, or why you would sit there and watch it. Like,
No,
all
I didn't
oh,
understand the site.
oh, oh, we're at a much more molecular level.
Yeah, yeah. No, I didn't understand how to navigate the site. So I saw play. What is the full title?
Unknown's Battlegrounds.
Player
Unknown.
Unknown's Battleground.
the-
Okay, so
that yeah.
I saw the like poster, like the title card, and it's just that guy with like a VR headset or whatever, and
It's a welding helmet.
it's a
It looks
welding
like a VR
helmet, right?
headset,
It
but it's
looks
a
like,
welding helmet.
but it's a
Right,
welding
yeah.
helmet. Okay, so you can see how my memory works when I
I
don't
mean, I could
understand
also.
what the hell
It's
is
also
going on.
because, it's also because the game is almost like purposely trying to not tell
Yeah.
you anything. So,
So I saw that and I was like, huh, there must be TV shows on Twitch. I thought it was like
I mean,
a
you're not.
TV show, like talk show kind of thing. And then I worked at GameStop. I'm just throwing that out there. I used to work at GameStop. There was now I probably saw that little picture on Twitch. Oh, I don't even know. Like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even know when it came out, when that game came out. Um, but
Well, it was a mod first, and then they released it as its like own game. So I'm
yeah.
sure it's been around for a while.
So
Yeah.
I must have saw that picture on Twitch, maybe like very like maybe 4 or 5, 6 months before I started my job at GameStop, and then halfway through, so like a year and like 3 quarters, I don't even know. I worked there for a year, and like 2 months, I don't even know. So maybe halfway through my employment there, GameStop TV, which you've ever gone into a GameStop, that TV that plays all the
Right.
commercials and has the little
Yes.
is the bane of our existence. The people who work there, it's
because
awful.
because it's the same thing on loop every
Oh
10
yeah,
minutes.
like I could quote some of the stuff that happened
Ugh.
on it. Um, I heard them talking about Battlegrounds, and I was like, wait, this is a real thing. It's a game. People play this. I thought, wow, okay, I understand Twitch now. Like, it
Right,
all
and
just
honestly, like,
clicked.
I mean,
It's
especially
like,
because like the last like year and a half is when Twitch has like really come into its own as what it can really do as
yeah,
a web. And Battlegrounds is probably one of the prime examples of what Twitch can do
yep.
because that's how I got into it. Was just like watching people start to
Play it.
talk about it.
Yeah.
They started doing streams. Like everybody does streams now. Polygon does one once a week.
Yep.
Point used to do one every week, and that's how I really got into the game.
Yeah.
Which is also why once I finally bought the game, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, no.
So
And then,
if people don't know what PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is, what it is a 100-person deathmatch on an island, and now there's a second map that is a desert, and it's very much like I wasn't joking when I said Battle Royale. Like the guy that created it uh, was heavily influenced by Battle Royale. It was we're going to drop you all in one
yeah.
space, and it's last man standing wins. And the way that they keep the game moving is that every 3 minutes or so, there's a playable area that shrinks, and if you're outside of that playable area, Blue Lightning kills you. Like that's it.
That's cool.
And so every match lasts about 40 minutes, and it's a perfect time to
Okay,
like sit
that's
down
cool.
and watch a match. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Like,
the perfect timing to sit down and watch a match. So
so that's what I figured it was. It was just like every man for themselves. And then Fortnite came out too, and
oh,
has like
it's a
its
whole
own.
other
What is it?
Fortnite's a whole other thing that I can
It's
get into for
here,
rambling.
like, so I don't know why I brought up Fortnite. It's just like when I
No,
think of Battlegrounds now, that's what I think of as
and
well.
and it's very quickly
And
becoming
like,
it's really
it
overtaking
really
Player
is.
Unknown's because it's on console. It got to
Yep.
console first.
Yep.
Eventually, they're going to go free to play, but again, that's a whole other thing I could get into.
Yeah.
I
Seriously.
I think that Fortnite's whole business plan is the worst is like the worst scheme
Yep.
in video games right now.
Well, the weirdest thing to me is that, again, while I was working at GameStop, I saw a commercial for it, and I was like, "Oh, that looks interesting." And we had to take quizzes as well,
Oh
to like
God,
learn
yes.
about the games. Yeah, we had to. We it was you had to go through. It was called Level Up, and you had to basically
Uh,
it would there would be and you would gain experience. It was such a ridiculous thing. They were like, "We're gonna try and make training fun for you guys," and some things some things were fun. Like it was fun to make fun of, in that kind of sense. But yeah, we had to take quizzes on video games, so that way we knew how to talk about them with people and how to explain them. So like I had to take a quiz on Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I had to do one on Mass Effect Andromeda, Horizon Zero Dawn, and like all the Switch games. Like, it was ridiculous. And one of them was on Fortnite, but it was on the actual game of Fortnite. So the one where you're building your
Right. The horde
fortress.
mode where everybody works together.
Exactly.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh, that's cool," because in that you got to actually use, cuz zombies are coming after you at you, and you have to build your fortress, and when your fortress dies, whatever. In that, you get to use zombies as your weapon if you can capture them correctly. From what I remember from the quiz. And from the reading and whatnot. Like, it was, if you captured a zombie in, like, a trap or whatever, or if you hit it with a certain, like, grenade, it would then do stuff that would attack the other zombies.
All right.
Like, that
Okay.
was super cool to me. So I was like, damn, like, I'm excited for this game. Because even though I fucking hate builders, like, I can't, that is so boring to me.
Yeah. The concept, like
Like,
the original concept of Fortnite, that whole horde mode thing is like a fine game that I never would have played.
yeah, yeah,
Like I've like
exactly.
yeah.
I'm like, this is cool. I can talk about it. It seems like maybe I'll try it. Who knows? But then, like, I never thought of it again because it wasn't really memorable. I liked the character design more than anything else. And then it came out. Completely forgot. I was like working the day it came out, and I was like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about that game. That oh,
Well,
okay,
and part of that is because it was in development forever.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
those games was in development forever, and then what actually happened is it went into early access,
yep,
which is, um, I mean, that's the like Steam name for it, but basically paid beta, where
yeah, yep.
you pay for the game so that
You
you can
can
watch
try
the
it
whole beta
out.
process.
Yeah.
Right. And so first they start off with the bullshit of we're gonna put this game on shelves in retail stores
Yep.
as if it's a completely released game when
Yep.
it's not,
Yep.
which is a whole thing.
It was so
Uh,
weird. Like,
yeah,
it was.
I it makes me so mad to
Yeah.
think about that like that idea of like you're gonna convince some parents gonna walk into a store and buy this game for their kid, not realizing that it's gonna be free in a year, and it
Exactly.
makes me so mad.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
then with the whole battlegrounds battle royale thing was they realized that they had the infrastructure to beat battlegrounds to console because
Yep.
battlegrounds got a deal with Xbox. It premiered at E3 last year that it was coming to Xbox One
Yep.
and it would be out in like November. And Fortnite went, hey, we can scrap together this version of that and put it out in August.
Exactly.
And
And it
that's
was
exactly
like,
what they did.
oh, remember when we were gonna have zombies in this game? Yeah, no, not anymore.
Yeah, so
If you
that's
want to pay the $60, have fun, but
right. So they're two
yeah,
distinct
nah.
like modes now.
Yeah,
You can download Fortnite for, free, quote unquote, and play the battle royale mode whenever you want, but you
exactly.
still can't get any
And it's
access to the
like,
original version of the
this
game.
just makes sense, guys.
Oh God!
It's
And
so
then like
stupid.
so, and the other thing that's going on is like all through when you're playing battlegrounds, at every game you're earning in-game currency for
Yeah.
however far, whatever, based on your rank, between 1 and 100, and based on how many people you hit and how many people you kill. It will give you battle points, is what they call
Okay.
them. For all
Okay.
that, then um, you can unlock like new clothes, basically. Like that's all that's good for. And you can unlock new clothes depending on how much gold you have.
Yeah.
And then in Fortnite,
It's all cosmetics. Yeah.
I mean, it's still all cosmetics, but oh my God, the actual system for you unlocking things might be the most like crappy mobile game version of that I have ever
So
seen, where
stupid.
it's like, oh yeah, you can pay real money and get more vanity points is what they call them, and then you can unlock a whole bunch of stuff. But if you're just going to play for free, it's
Why?
still going to be 5 levels before you unlock something. The first thing you're going to unlock is an emote you're never going to use,
Yep.
and then it's going to be 6 more levels before you unlock something else. Like they really basically are just like you're getting nothing. You're getting nothing for playing this game for free,
Exactly. Yep.
other than
Well,
playing the game.
you know what? You know what's so sad about those? So, like, I play Overwatch. Like, I really like Overwatch. I haven't played it as much recently, but I really, really enjoy that. And then I don't know if you heard of Paladins, but there were
uh,
videos. There were videos
yes,
about it where they're like, "Oh, you're
that's
just ripping
the
off
one that's
Overwatch."
Is that the one that just also got shut down, or is that a different one?
I don't know. Oh, I haven't.
One
I
of
don't
those,
know.
either
It
one of the,
could have.
I think I think Paladins tried to do its own battle royale battlegrounds version of things and
Oh,
completely
really?
collapsed it itself, and now
I'm
it's gone.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was the one where you rode into battle on horseback. That's what
uh,
it is. So
okay,
the
sure.
thing, yeah. So that whole cosmetics thing, where it's like, oh, if you want to play for free, like you can get stuff, but you're not gonna get it as fast as all these other people playing. And it's gonna be shitty stuff. Like,
Right.
just hold on. Um, the thing about Overwatch is like, yeah, it's just cosmetics that you unlock, but for some reason, those cosmetics mean so much to
R-
people.
and also those matches are running relatively quickly
Yeah,
too, right? Like
yeah,
oh, like a typical
yeah,
Overwatch
yep, yeah.
doesn't last the 40 minutes that like a Battlegrounds does or the 30 minutes that a Fortnite does.
Mhm.
So it's okay that you're kind of jumping in and out and doing stuff.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the other thing about like Battlegrounds is that for of that 40 minutes, I could spend 35 of them not seeing a single person and doing almost nothing.
yeah. Exactly. Like
Still
that's
earn gold.
crazy.
And then if I go 35 minutes never seeing another person and they snipe me from across the map, I still get gold if I was in like 15th place.
Well, there you go.
Like there we
Yeah,
go.
I don't know. I just like it's super funny to me that spending money on free games just so you can get like because that's with was it Fortnite? Yeah, Fortnite, right?
Right.
So you can spend money. I don't know. I've never played it, but this I'm basing this off of what you just said, right? So you can
Right.
spend money if you want, but why would you? Why
I
would
mean,
you?
and essentially
Like
what
it
it is
makes
that
no
you're
sense.
paying, and what you're essentially doing is you're paying to customize your character.
Exactly.
Because that's the other thing is that Fortnite does not have any character customization right now.
Mhm.
They are giving you a random model from the game
Yeah.
every match.
Yeah.
It's changing every match. Whereas again, in Battlegrounds, you get your initial character setup. You create what they look like, and then the clothes that you're earning,
Mhm.
through battle points and all that, and those can change. And then if you
Yeah.
want to change like your face, that also costs those points. But like, so that's what you have to earn before you can do that again. But at
Yeah.
least like
Where you
it's your
are.
character. Like I play that game and I get to play what I want to look like, and you get to swap through. Once you own the clothes, you can change into whatever clothes you want that you own.
Mm.
So like half the time, I used to work at Target, and for a little while, I was basically cosplaying as a Target employee in game because I
That's
had a red
awesome.
t-shirt and khakis that I
Okay,
was
that's
running
awesome.
around.
Like that's funny. You know what? Okay, so I'm running off of this whole cosmetics thing because like it means so much in video games, but like it means nothing when you really think about it.
No,
Like
and what it
like
is like free games use it to make their money, and that's like I
exactly.
understand that concept. Like you're gonna
Exactly.
put this out for free, you
Yep.
still need to make money to run your servers. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, but that's why I like that Battlegrounds cost me 30
Yep.
bucks, and I've never spent real money on it
Yeah.
again
Yeah.
because earning stuff in game. It's just
Exactly.
perfect.
Well, it's like Paladins, right? So Paladins was free to download. Okay? If you wanted to buy the season pass, which unlocked all the characters, all the it didn't even unlock all the like skins and whatnot for them. But it basically just unlocked all the characters. It was like $20 or $30. Which like in this day and age for a video game, not that bad when you're considering every other game is $60.
Right.
But and I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, well, I can get all the characters for just $20. I should do that. And then like I sat back and I'm like, no, no, I have this game. I'm playing this game currently. I'm not playing a different version than anyone else. I'm playing the same version, and I didn't have to spend money. Like I can still get the same enjoyment out of it because the free character that anyone should ever want to play as is Pip. He is the only character in Paladins that you should ever play as.
That was their mistake. They should have put the
E-
good characters behind a paywall.
exactly. And they didn't because let me tell you, all the free ones are the best ones. And
Oh
I
yeah,
only know
especially
that
because
because they're free. But
right. But
I
that's
don't
it, and
know
that's
any
just
of
it.
the other
By
characters.
nature of the fact that they're the free characters, they're the ones that everybody's going to be comfortable with. They're the
Exactly.
ones that you're going to know how to play.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend $20 and then be like, oh shit, now I feel like I have to relearn this entire game all over again.
Exactly.
I've been
So
playing
then
for
so then it's like when I and then I thought about that and I'm like, wait, I'm getting really good at Pip, who is basically like he just throws out chemicals and stuff. Like and I think he heals too. I don't even remember. But he's like a little fox rat squirrel dude. He's like basically a version of Rocket, I
I was just
guess.
thinking that. I was going to
Like
say, it sounds like Rocket Raccoon, really.
if you look at he's like a little mad side. He's great. He's a great character. But like I was getting good at him, and I'm like, even if I paid the stupid $20, I would play as no one else. Like it would have been a waste. But then even Overwatch, like you buy those loot boxes, which loot boxes, that's a whole nother conversation that we could
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about. Like that I couldn't even get into because I'm like, I don't want to get into that world. Because I don't even want to get into that discussion because I already know that it's stupid. And like there are people who fall for it, and if you're falling for it, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to offend anyone, but like, come on, guys. Loot boxes, it's just a waste. Like, it really is.
It's okay because apparently the Hawaiian Senate is the one that's going to like solve that problem for us,
Oh my
apparently.
god.
Oh God, that was a great video. So like one of the Hawaiian senators has decided that he's gonna make it like his thing to go after like loot boxes and stuff,
Oh my
which is
god.
great. Someone should.
That's super
Uh,
funny.
but he brought in like some lawyer from the oh what's it called, the trade organization there, the ESA, the
Yeah.
Electronic Software Association, or whatever.
Yep.
The guy couldn't answer basic questions about what the ES like even like the rating system,
Oh
which
my
the
god.
ESA created.
Oh my
This guy
god.
could not answer questions about it.
That's
And it was
incredible.
like it was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen someone do, and I wanted to crawl out of my skin listening to him answer questions. And so that might, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like in a year,
Yeah.
especially after Battlefront 2 last year really wanged that.
Yeah. So
Like
I don't even know. Like I knew that if you paid, you could. I know that like wasn't Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker. They were locked behind loot boxes, right? Was that the
it wasn't
issue?
that they
Like, I don't
no,
even
so
remember.
their loot boxes were giving you boosts and weapons that were
Yeah.
giving you advantage, which is always like the big no. The thing that
Exactly.
happened with unlocking the characters was again the same thing. You're earning in-game currency, which you can pay for and get like a bundle of, or you can earn it through the game.
Yeah.
And it was like what would be the length of an entire kind of game for most people. You would unlock one character. So after
Yeah.
like 40 to 50 hours of earning whatever the average payout was per match, you could unlock one of these many characters that were behind this
Yeah.
paywall,
So
which meant it was like
it was basically a mobile game.
right. They were basically they had fine tuned it to make you want to pay because you were too like you were gonna get too frustrated
Exactly.
playing to
Yeah, it's
open
so
it.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, like, so, like, I don't know. Even though Overwatch loot boxes are the best, I mean, I even I had like a gift card, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna use this to buy loot boxes for Overwatch, and I'm like, no, because I could get something better with this gift card than maybe duplicates, because that's all you
And
get in
that's
loot boxes anyways
right.
are
That's the biggest
duplicates.
problem with them is the
Like,
duplication thing, because especially when they do their seasonal skins.
yep.
So it's like here's a minimum amount of time to get
Mhm.
these skins, and you can pay and get five of the same one,
Yeah.
or
Yep.
or you can hope to God that you're going to get more. Like
It also feels better. Like I don't know, I'm crazy about that, but like it feels better when you're racking up your experience, and then you get that little notification, loot box earned, and like you go open it, and it's like okay, well I had fun. Like if I get something awesome, if I don't, I'm gonna get money. Like then I can buy something with that in-game money. But it's like I don't know. It's it's just a whole ridiculous thing. I knew people who came into GameStop who would spend too much money on Overwatch. And I'm like, you already bought the
yeah,
game. Just play it. Just play it. And I promise you, you will get the skins that you want. Trust me. Like,
Yeah,
it's
and there's like
going
a
to
whole
happen eventually. You like
yeah,
the game, right? It's gonna be
yeah, and
fine.
there's that whole idea that like it's never the people actually making the game that want that system. It's the publisher
Exactly.
that wants all the money
Mhm.
and wants to keep making more
Yeah,
money.
it's crazy.
And like I've been like I said, I've been following a lot of like independent developers on Twitter and just developers in general, and it's interesting to see them. You know, they're the ones getting a lot of the heat for it, even though it's like Dice is the developer that made Battlefront 2. EA published.
Yep. Yep.
Dice never gave a shit about loot boxes. Dice never
You're
said this is
kidding.
the mechanics that were right. Dice was never saying we want this is the system we want. It's EA saying that because EA is
Mhm.
the one that has to make their money back,
Exactly. Yeah.
or make more money than they actually put in, and way more money than they actually put in because it's a Star Wars game that everybody's going to buy. You don't need you don't need loot boxes.
Yep.
You
Yep.
don't need loot boxes. You don't need to be able to buy in-game currency. There's no like if you made a good Battlefront 2, you would have made your money back 1,000 times over. Like,
Yeah. Seriously, I don't know. It's just like the whole game development is it's getting weird. It's getting
it
weird.
really is, and it's weirder. It's weirder like the deeper you dig with that, and you start to
Yep.
get into like developers who are like when there are problems with the developers, it's because they're racist jackasses, and you
Yeah.
don't want to even get into that. And then it's
Just
oh,
oh
everyone on this team is really
oh
good. They hired an outside sound designer, and that
Yep.
outside sound designer is kind of a kind of a tool, and you don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And
It's just a
you start to
whole web of ridiculousness.
yeah, when you start to realize the actual like size and scope of how many different teams and people go into a game and how hard that is to balance getting good people, it really starts to like break your brain. That it's
Well,
like, oh my god, it's,
speaking of, because segues are weird. Speaking of the weird teams behind things, we're at an hour. You know, I mean, I don't care about talking longer, but I feel like we should talk a little bit, even if it's 10 minutes, about the Oscars.
we definitely should. Yes,
I feel
because we
like
told
that
ourselves that's what we were going to do, but
exactly.
obviously haven't gotten there yet.
I
Yeah,
mean,
so
I don't have to talk much about it. I mean, I can, but I think it needs to be talked about. I don't know.
yeah, I mean they it was a very safe, a very perfectly fine Oscars. Like
Yeah.
that's the most you can say about it.
Yeah, like
They went in knowing that they had to talk about like Harvey Weinstein and all the shit
exactly.
coming up,
Yep.
and they knew they had to talk about it, and they talked about it. They didn't really make a huge statements on it other than being able to say, "Hey, we talked about it,"
Yep. It was
and then
very
they got in and got out. Like that was
yeah,
it.
it was also a very like passive Oscars as well. At times like whenever cuz the female director I mean Garbo? Yeah, Greta Garbo.
Gerwig.
Gerwig. I can't
Yeah.
even. Greta Garbo is someone else who will always be on my mind because of film school. But Greta Gerwig.
Greta Gerwig. Yeah.
Um, so this is how much I pay attention to the Oscars. I like the Oscars, but they don't mean anything to me, even though I went to
Same
school for
here.
film.
I love like watching ceremonies like that. I don't
Yeah,
actually about
yeah.
them.
But like, so Greta Gerwig was nominated, the only woman in the director category. Um, and then there was a cinematographer as well, a female
And
cinematographer.
she was I wish we knew her name because
Yeah,
that one's almost more important. She was the first woman ever nominated
exactly.
for that award.
And it
Right.
was and both presenters for those two categories, they were like the four men and one woman. Like it
Right.
was. I'm like, there you go. That's fun. Like
That's about like and then it's really funny to watch. So Emma
like
Stone is the one that did the directors who said
yeah,
four men and Greta Gerwig.
yeah,
And then someone immediately went on Twitter and went, "You should also point out the fact that Jordan Peele is like only one of five black men that
exactly.
ever be
Yeah. I don't
nominated,
know.
and
It's just
Guillermo del Toro is a Mexican immigrant, and it's like,
it's just I don't know. The diversity of this Oscars was pretty cool. Um, even though like
And that diversity was definitely in the presenters. That's the
Oh,
thing. It
yeah,
was in the presenters, and they highlighted it when
yeah,
they could in the nominations. That
yep,
also didn't change the fact that a lot of white dudes won stuff.
yep.
Like,
Exactly. So it's almost like, are we changing stuff, or are we just
no,
pretending like we are? Like it's
and I
kind
really
of.
like right. And again, like I think this was a year where they were like, I think every year more and more people kind of really figure out just how kind of useless the Oscars actually are,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's not only just that it's whoever puts in the most money to get noticed and all of that. It's
Hmm.
also it's whatever people saw.
Yep.
Like when you look at the actual like when right before the ceremony, a couple of days before, there were all these stories coming out of the older generation being like, well, why would I even watch Get Out? That's not an Oscar-worthy film. It's a horror film, and it's lecturing me about racism.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
watch that.
Why would? Yeah.
At the same time, I'm reading that going, I only saw two of those 5 or 6 movies that were nominated. I saw that and Shape of Water. I'm
Yep.
glad Shape of Water won. As far as I'm concerned, Get Out should have won over Shape of Water. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
about Lady Bird. I don't know about any of the others. Get Out should have won, not just from a white guilt standpoint. I promise. Well, it's funny because like the joke was I voted for I would have voted for Obama 3 times, and then the joke was I saw Get Out 3 times, and now the joke is Get Out should have won, and I realize I'm falling right into that trap
Oh
right
my
now.
god.
But I think that Get Out should have won, not just because of the social relevancy, which I think is an important part to that.
Mm.
I saw that movie 2 or 3 times, and every time I learned something new about it,
Yeah.
and every time I would follow, I would watch something with Jordan Peele and learn something about it, and the meticulousness of that movie and the way that it perfectly used the medium of film to
Mm.
tell a story, that is what an Oscar-winning movie should be.
Oh.
Like, like in my head,
Mm.
something that wins an Oscar should be the movies that win Oscars should be the movies that perfectly exemplify the 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 medium of film.
Yeah.
And I think that Get Out perfectly used the medium of film to tell the story it wanted to tell.
Interesting.
And in a lot of ways, Shape of Water did too.
Yeah.
But I think that Get Out did it better, in
Okay.
like opinion.
So in that, so I didn't see Get Out, so I don't really get what you're saying.
Okay,
um, because I just can't attest to it. But I mean I
right.
trust you. But like I'm happy you said that, because that is what those awards should be based on. It's like how did you demonstrate that you understand this craft, that you understand how film works, and how how everything about the film works, not just the names that are attached to it, not just to the people who like if you so we learned about a theory in school called auteur theory,
Right.
which is, I mean, it's a lot of people know it because it's fairly easy to understand, but it's basically like, it's how it's your own style and how you keep that all together, and then but it also shows that you have technical mastery, and like that you understand how a script should work, that you understand how teams should work, so I get what you're saying, and that's why the animation category, the full length animation category.
Should have gone to Boss Baby. I know.
No,
It's just the.
of course, right? No, but so Loving Vincent, right? I don't know how much you know about of that movie. I didn't see it.
These nominations were the first time I ever heard of it.
Okay, so I didn't really know anything. I went on a cruise in January. I didn't. I think I seen pictures of it, but I didn't realize it was a movie. I thought it was just a series of paintings, that were coming out, which is what that movie is. But it was on the ship as a movie, and I wanted to watch it, but I kept missing it. And there was a moment where they had an interview with the woman who made it, and which I'm pretty sure it was a woman who made it. But it's all canvas paintings, animated, which has never really been done before.
I mean,
Like,
that's yeah. The amount. I mean, the
like you
amount of
have
work that goes into just drawing a frame of animation, let alone
exactly.
painting an entire frame.
Exactly.
Like,
So I mean, yeah, you have Disney and you have all these other studios who like did animation cells or like you know painted animation cells or but to have a canvas painting, I mean they showed footage of the studio with all the paintings in it, and it's like you don't even understand how many paintings this person had to make for this one movie. Like to show this and if you see a trailer for it, like if you don't even listen to the trailer, if you just watch the trailer, the movement in the paintings themselves and the characters, it's just so beautiful, and it looks like that's what you should be awarding, because that person was able to take the knowledge that we have of animation and of storytelling, and they made this entirely new thing that has never really been seen before. But then that gets into the whole idea of new things scare people. So
Oh yeah.
yes,
Oh,
let's give it to the safe option of the Disney Pixar film. You know, was it Pixar?
and
I
not even
think
that.
so.
Like it
Like
was, and you think about like most of the Oscar voters, they get their screeners toward the ceremony, and that's when they watch the movies they haven't watched before.
mm,
But when you think about the movies that like Coco, every Oscar voter probably went out and actually saw that movie when it came out.
exactly. Yeah.
And so had more time to think about it
Mhm.
and digest it and hear about it and all of that. And it's like, oh, then this shows up at my door 2 weeks before the ceremony, and I'm supposed to
Yep.
vote. And it also showed up with 80 other movies. I don't have time for that. And then
Exactly.
it gets thrown out and it gets stuck into another pile, and
Which
it never
like
gets seen.
that in itself is also like come on, like we need time to be watching these films and actually assessing them if we're voting on them and if we really
Right.
want these awards to matter, because they don't right now. They
No, they
really
really. I mean,
don't,
that's the sad thing is they really
because
don't.
and like I realized it years ago, but I really realized it during that, because even though I didn't see Loving Vincent, it should have won. Like I can just sit here and say it should have won because it's paintings and it's not, and it's just new and it's different and it's innovative, and that used to be a good thing, and like now it's like, oh, but did it make any money? Oh, but did people see it? Oh, but nah. Like, good job, pat on the head, you made something new, but yeah. We're gonna stay
Yeah.
safe with Disney over here.
Yeah, and
Not
that really exemplifies like this whole the whole Oscars this year was
yeah.
that it was very much the safe bet
Yep.
on everything
Well,
because they didn't want to ruffle any feathers, but they
mhm,
also didn't want to look like they weren't
exactly.
at least pushing a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like I kept saying, like I was very happy that there were, I mean, um Francis Francis McDormand's thing of I want all the women nominees to stand up in here. Like I started crying because it was just a really nice moment to like be like, listen, like this is where we've come. But you still have those women in those categories that are still dominated by men
Oh
who
yeah.
it's like, we're gonna throw you a bone, we're gonna nominate you, but we're safer having the male win, you know? And I'm
Right.
not even like a crazy feminist person or like a crazy activist person, but it's like that's just how it felt from like a humanities standpoint. Like it's like, oh, and like a marketing standpoint too. Like that's how I'm sure they were like, oh, I mean, I'm sure like I'm giving them more or less credit than they have, but it's like from a marketing standpoint, just saying that, oh, there are two women who are nominated and one of them for the first time ever, in the category for the first time ever, like, oh, people are going to watch that because they want to see if those women win.
Right. And then
But it's
they
like,
they don't.
they don't.
Did
Um,
this start for what? I actually don't even remember what won for cinematography this year.
I
Well, I
don't.
should know. I have the. Let me see if it's on the scorecard I kept for them because I've got that right here. I, for whatever reason, decided an hour before the Oscars started that I was going to actually gamify that just because it was the only way I was going to get through it.
Yeah.
That and rum was the only way I was going to get through
Oh
it.
well, you messaged me on Twitter and you were like the rum thing, and I didn't know if you were playing a drinking game
No, it was just the fact that I was like,
or if you were just drinking
I
rum.
was just I was just drinking as I was watching the
And then I
thing.
was gonna share a story of how me and my friend did play a drinking game with rum, and oh, that
Oh,
was great.
ugh.
I was drunk.
Drinking games were made for like light beer, like nothing else. Like you can't
Yeah,
go any harder than that, or you're going
yeah.
to die.
We he and I both love rum. So we were like, yeah, why not? And it was a mistake. It really
Yeah.
wasn't, because it was a really fun night, but it was, and neither one of us got sick, so that's good. But
Hey.
but yeah, the
Uh,
Oscar. I mean, yeah, there was a lot, and all the Viva, it was very Viva Mexico and Viva, and or Viva la Mexico. Like that was cool too, and I'm like, this is great. This is great. Like we're doing good in the Oscars, and then it's like, oh, but like so many other things are being pushed aside too. Like
yeah.
it's just sad. Like it's just sad sometimes to watch it, cause it's like you can't please everyone, but like you're trying to
And
in
and
some
and by
weird
shining a light
way.
and by shining a light on what they were trying to do, it also showed just how little they were actually getting
Exactly.
getting
Yeah.
through in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing is like if you just if everyone just acted like people, we'd be fine. Just acted like I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
it's crazy.
on if everyone just acted like people, I think is a good way to end this
Right?
first episode.
I don't know if people are going to understand what I mean by that, but let's end it there.
All right. So that was the very first official episode of Say Report Junior. The better, what did I say last time? The better, younger, sexier version
Yes.
of the Say Report.
Of Say Report.
Um, Thank you for joining in with us as we get to know each other and get to learn
Yeah.
about what we like and don't like about different things. Which is always like the best way to learn about someone is find out what type of movies they like, what games they like,
Exactly.
and
Yep.
what like
Yep.
why they like them is always like the coolest thing.
Yeah. I
Um,
think this is
so
the like I've gotten to know a lot of people in my life, and I'm sure you have as well. But like this is the coolest way to learn about someone, cuz like we've only been texting for what, like not
uh,
even a month. Like I don't
just
even
I was gonna
know.
say like just about a month
Just
maybe.
about a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I feel like I've known you for a while. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
crazy to say, but like I
No,
do. Like
it's
I
not.
feel like we've known each other for longer than we actually have, and I don't know
Which
if
is
I've ever felt that before.
good. Very good. So
So this was a
we'll
good
be back
experiment.
in. Yeah, so we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We're bi-weekly right now
Yes.
until we kind of get more comfortable with the format and all of that and figure some stuff out. And I mean, yeah, otherwise the Say Report itself is out every Tuesday.
Yep.
We'll be out every other Wednesday.
Yes. Exactly. And yeah, if you like this, stick around because I'm sure other crazy conversations are going to come out of this. Um, And definitely, if this is the first time you're listening to a Say Report, you should go listen to Say Report Senior, which is really not what it's called. But you
Just
should go.
just the Say
It's just
Report,
the
but
Say
yeah.
Report. But go listen to them because I don't know, there are siblings. You should give them a listen.
Yeah, they're okay.
They're the originators. They're okay. No. We need to surpass them, god damn it.
Uh, somehow we will.
Somehow. But so on this, I mean, I don't know if you wanna. You can follow. I believe we have a Twitter. We're
We
very.
do.
We do have a
But
Twitter,
I have
correct?
to I have
Right?
to figure out the password to it because
So do I.
Devin messaged me the password and it'll be easier for you to get it and then just tell me because what he said to me, I'm trying to remember the actual way he said it. It was like, "Oh, it's your last names in alphabetical order backwards." I was like, "What does that What are you talking about? I don't know what that means.
If
Just tell me what the
some
password."
if
So,
someone's smart enough, Zach, you just
well,
let them enter our Twitter. So
oh, that'll
good
be fun.
job.
Well, no one else is using it because we can't figure out how to get into it. So
If by the time this goes up, you see
I don't know
some
if
weird
there's
tweets,
yeah, it's like I don't know if there's
not from
spaces
us.
involved, if there's underscores.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, so you can follow us on Twitter. Hopefully, we'll start tweeting from it. I believe it's just at sayreportjr. Um, and if you want to follow us individually, I guess, because Twitter is the way that this show operates, apparently. You can follow me at Dale's Brain, so at DAYLES Brain. Uh,
And you can follow me at Zerwiski. That's Zerwiski. Spelled it right this time. There
there
we
you
go.
go. Yeah, and on that note, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good. Let's send it off to Liz.
Let's do this. Take it away, Liz.
Thank you for listening to The Say Report with your hosts Dale Decker and Zach Sarowitz. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.